Living in the age of constant technological advances does have its downside. The accumulation of literally millions of old toxin-filled mobile phones, televisions and computers. The Senate has just passed legislation setting e-waste recycling targets for the importers and manufacturers of these products. And while that might mean a sudden increase in market size for local recyclers, one e-waste specialist says it doesn't necessarily guarantee the industry's future in Australia.
What you gonna do with all that junk inside your trunk?
We sell 8 million mobile phones into this country every year. We sell over 20 million electrical appliances. So you can see that there's hundreds of thousands of tonnes ending up in landfill each year.
That insatiable appetite we seem to have for all things new has been successfully exploited by e-waste recycler MRI.
We'll get a computer, destroy the data on it, check it, repair it and go out and remarket it. If we can't reuse the product, we'll break it down and some of the parts may be reused. And if we can't do that, we'll pull it apart and recycle it and divert it from landfill. We get, on average, about a 98% diversion rate from landfill.
MRI generates revenue by three means: charging a fee, selling the recovered metals and plastics, or reselling the discarded product.
Most of the product we handle here has a negative value. That means the value of the recyclates we recover do not exceed the costs of processing. So we've got to supplement our income stream by charging a gate fee. MRI prefers to resell its product where at all possible because it offers the highest margin. It also offers the lowest costs in many respects because disassembly is often labour intensive and costs more than repairing and offering for resale.
It's a business where margins are tight and some of MRI's processing is offshore.
The technologies that they employ generally don't lend themselves to work in Australia because literally the economies of scale here are not sufficient to justify the investment.
The Australian dollar has not helped of late with the reselling of all the broken down bits.
Commodity prices are struck in US dollars. It's pretty close to a 40 to 50% loss of value for us. We haven't seen a real decline because our markets are expanding, but we've seen stagnation in our revenue and our cost base rise.
The federal government is expected to shortly pass legislation setting targets for 80% of televisions and computers to be recycled by 2021.
So we'll see somewhere between 6 and 20 times growth in the market. So from that viewpoint, the future looks very rosy for the recycling industry.
While Will Lemessurier welcomes the action he's campaigned 15 years for, he says there is a rather big but.
The proposed regulation will guarantee quantity, but it won't guarantee how it's and where it's processed. What we don't know about the legislation at this point, and the devil's always in the detail, is the standards that will be, the minimum standards that will be set. I also need to be mindful that the producers will want to pay the least amount of money for the services that we will be providing.
And that could mean Australian recycling businesses will increasingly be forced to look overseas.
If we let the market to be somewhat unregulated and not set the minimum standards at a high enough point, we're going to see offshore processing of the material. That's undesirable from my viewpoint. I think we lose control of it once we export it.
The local industry is already contending with the smuggling of e-waste to cheaper overseas processors.
It's a significant issue that the government needs to continue to address. If you have unrestrained export and unchecked processing, you then get the process whereby people recover all the value and dispose of the nasties in any which way they can.
MRI says the standards the government finally sets could make or break the Australian industry.
If we allow the export unchecked, that means that we will ourselves have to look at moving that type of product offshore more and more for processing, which means we lose Australian jobs.
Rebecca, that's reporting.